What's going on, YouTube? JT is reborn here. Welcome to, where are we at right now? We had the prequels, that's 3, Solo 4, Rogue One 5, Episode 6 of my Star Wars Rewatch. And in today's video, or this video, whenever I'm uploading it, we're going to be talking about Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. That's right, the original Star Wars from 1977. The beginning of this whole entire saga, universe, that people have gone absolutely fucking crazy over. Now, truth be told, with this movie, my experience with Star Wars comes from the VHSs, the unaltered VHSs. No, there was one alteration with the VHSs that I have. They only added the opening crawls where they put episode 4, 5, and 6 on them. Other than that, it's the original unaltered versions. Now, when I did this rewatch, I had the Blu-rays right here. I was already upstairs kind of watching them, and I'm like, my VHSs are kind of locked away right now. I'm like, I'll just watch them on the Blu-ray on my TV, just because I always watch them on the tapes, so I'm just going to watch them on the Blu-rays this time, because I never really watch them like that. But yeah, so these are kind of like the unaltered, like the altered Blu-rays per se, because every time that George Lucas re-releases these movies, he changes them. He adds in some CGI nonsense, and he never decides to release the original versions. He's so goddamn petty about that, and a lot of people are irritated. I understand, why can't you just, take out the CGI stuff and just make them as closely resemble to the original product as possible and release it? I don't see what's so difficult about it. But, yeah, so we're going to be talking episode 4, the original one, A New Hope, and this is a classic movie. It's obviously, I think it's slightly overrated a bit. I definitely do like it. Is it my favorite Star Wars movie? It's tough for me to choose my favorite Star Wars movie because there's elements of, each of the original trilogy that I like. My favorite moments in the trilogy come in, I want to say Return of the Jedi, when it's that final confrontation with Luke and Vader. I think that's some of the best stuff of the trilogy. It's just the only distracting part is the Ewoks in that one. But I may like Return of the Jedi the most, personally. I know that's kind of surprising. If you cut the Ewoks out, it might be my favorite. But, I also like Empire. I really like New Hope. So the original trilogy, it's by far the best that Star Wars has ever been. There's some really solid stuff in this one. Luke's hero's journey. The music is good. There's some cheesy dialogue in there for sure. I was just going into Tashi Station to pick up some power converters. Obviously Lucas is not really the best screenwriter or director, but he definitely is really good when it comes to world building. That is one thing that nobody can deny. George Lucas is an expert world builder, and that's why I think the subsequent sequels kind of got better in terms of writing and directing, because Lucas, like I said, he's a great world builder. He's good at coming up with concepts, but screenwriting and directing is not necessarily a strong suit. But there's a lot of good stuff in A New Hope. Yeah, it kind of does drag a bit early on, and I was kind of noticing that watching it, but once our main characters kind of meet up, you have Han, Luke, and Leia. They're great together. Obviously, Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher. I think the best in A New Hope has got to be Harrison Ford, just because of his demeanor, his attitude. Alec Guinness is really good as Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's the starting of a lot of things. When I watch these versions, though, I want to say, the CGI is super distracting. It's really bad. There's a scene where he talks to Jabba, and it's so noticeably distinctly different from the other stuff. And, there's a lot of stuff they just crap that they added onto the screen for literally no reason whatsoever. I'm like, why do you need to add this stuff in there? Why do you need to have all these, CGI creatures that are so completely out of place and just tack them onto the screen? It's one of the reasons when I rewatch these movies. I usually watch the trilogy at least once a year, and I always stick with the VHS tapes because there's none of that other nonsense. Although there is maybe a few slight improvements, I'd say. For instance, Ian McDiarmid, when he comes in Empire, that's the one scene I like a little bit better than the original guy they got to play the Emperor, because Ian McDiarmid is he's so great as Palpatine. He's, my favorite character because he's just so hammy and ridiculous. I can't help but laugh and just enjoy every second he's on screen. Darth Vader, he's pretty cool. And one thing that was kind of interesting, too, about A New Hope is Darth Vader and Luke, they never really interact with each other. And I'm like, you know what? For such an iconic, hero-villain relationship, Luke and Vader never converse with each other at all, and not until Empire Strikes Back. That's what I found kind of fascinating about it, too. But yeah, original Star Wars is really hopeful, it's really optimistic, and it's just nice seeing, kind of the joyfulness of these characters come together, and I really appreciated that about the movie. So, yeah, New Hope's a classic. I do think it's slightly overrated, as people kind of overrate some of it. It's definitely kind of dated a lot of things, some dialogue, some action bits here and there don't quite hold up to today's standards. There's certain movies I think that still, from this era that still kind of hold up, Jaws, Steven Spielberg's Jaws. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles of today's tech, but that movie holds up, I think, better than, say, the original, Star Wars does. But the original Star Wars, I kind of, when, for instance, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Vader fight, it's kind of a really lackluster lightsaber battle. It's cool to see for the first time. I'm sure there's a lot of great spectacle, and just kind of the mystique of it all, and just Luke's hero's journey beginning to where it's at. Like, one of my favorite scenes is when he's just kind of looking at the sunset, and you're like, this is where it all begins, is like his journey from here to Jedi Master, and obviously it concludes in Return of the Jedi. But a lot of neat things are set up. It kind of ends like, okay, like Vader's kind of just cast away. It definitely feels like the start of something for sure. But you know, you never know, because it ended up being this huge breakout success and spawned like the craziest franchise of all time. What was once the biggest movie franchise, I guess the MCU's kind of taken it over in terms of total grosses. But yeah, Star Wars is iconic. It's special. It's a once in a lifetime series, and this is where it all began. I really liked the movie. Like I said, there's bits that kind of drag when I was rewatching it here and there. Like when C-3PO and R2-D2 end up on, was it Tatooine? And it's just kind of like that little gap in there until, you know, they obviously go back up into the Millennium Falcon out into space. But it's, you know, it's fun, it's simple. Peter Cushing's pretty good. I just like the movie. So, yeah, that's it. That's one of the things. That's A New Hope. Is it my favorite Star Wars movie? I don't know. It's kind of tricky when it comes to the original trilogy, because when I was younger, I kind of liked Return of the Jedi a bit most. If you cut out the Ewoks, like, if they're out of the movie, then I think that would be my favorite. But, yeah, there's some good stuff in here. Definitely a solid movie. Iconic, like, what's can be said about Star Wars that hasn't been said. So, yeah, that's going to be it. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and come back in the next video as we talk about Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Thank you so much for watching. Take care now. Bye-bye then, and I'll see you all in the next video.